wir brauchen für unser Leben nicht eine kultivierte Welt, die künstlich gemacht ist, aber mal eine dekorative Welt. Wir können auch mit einer sehr sachlichen Welt leben und die Dekoration, das muss dann die Kultur sein. Und das ist dann die Kunst, das sind die schönen Bilder und Skulpturen und das, was die Menschen im Kopf und Geist machen als Künstler. Und das Haus muss das hergeben, das muss die Hülle sein. Die muss schlicht und einfach sein. Aber kein Haus braucht nicht zugemauert werden, das kann sich nach außen öffnen, einfach offen machen. Man braucht keine Sprossen, um aus dem Fensterloch zu gucken. Man kann die Mauer weglassen und macht mal so viel Mauer, wie man statisch braucht oder zur Aufhängung von Bildern vielleicht. Aber sonst kann man glatt ohne den ganzen dekorativen Teil der schönen gestalterischen, dekorativen Barockzeit in unserer Zeit weglassen. Du kannst trotzdem schön haben wie in der Barockzeit und nicht ein bisschen weniger, sondern eher mehr. Man lebt jetzt plötzlich viel mehr in der Natur als vor 200, 300 Jahren. Viel mehr. Ich lebe doch hier jeden Schritt in der Natur. Ich laufe doch in meinem Garten hier. Und das müssen die leider begreifen. Nicht? Und das kann man als Architekt den Menschen bieten, wenn man es richtig macht. Ja, komm schön, ja, komm. Ja, guck mal hier. Der Kiste rein, guck mal hier. Ja, komm mal, komm. Komm mal hier. Also guck dich aus der Hand auf. Ja, komm. Oh. Ja, komm.
Hello, Julia. This is Los Angeles. It is of highest importance that you take the next flight to LAX and take a super constellation. Bei den Bungalows, die der Architekt Walter Brune in den 50er und 60er Jahren entwarf, war es ihm wichtig, dass sich die Gebäude harmonisch in die Landschaft einfügten und sich ihre flachen, niedrigen Dächer unterhalb der Bäume befanden. Wenn er heute von seinen Entwürfen aus dieser Zeit spricht, macht er eine elegante horizontale Geste mit der rechten Hand, die er mit einem ganz bestimmten Geräusch unterstreicht. Psst, macht er dann und ergänzt, das ist eine Linie. Walter Brune ist einer der ersten Architekten, die in der Zeit nach dem Zweiten Weltkrieg die Idee des kalifornischen Bungalows nach Europa und vor allem nach Düsseldorf gebracht hat. Durch den Zweiten Weltkrieg war die gesamte Entwicklung der Moderne in Deutschland, die schon so weit fortgeschritten war, unterbrochen worden und das Land war jahrelang kulturell isoliert. Nach der Schließung des Bauhauses 1932 in Dessau und 1933 in Berlin wanderten Architekten wie Mies van der Rohe und Walter Gropius nach Amerika aus, setzten ihre Arbeit und ihre Lehrtätigkeit unter anderem in Chicago und Harvard fort und verfeinerten dort in den folgenden Jahren ihre Ideen. Diese Konzentration des architektonischen Fortschritts in den Vereinigten Staaten veranlasste nach dem Krieg zahlreiche junge deutsche Architekten nach Amerika zu reisen, um dort etwas über modernes Bauen zu lernen. Auch von Düsseldorf aus flogen Architekten nach New York, Chicago und Los Angeles, um sich mit modernen Gebäuden auseinanderzusetzen, sich Anregungen für den Wiederaufbau ihrer zerstörten Heimatstadt zu holen und um einen ideellen Anschluss an das Bauhaus herzustellen. Walter Brune ist einer dieser Architekten. In Amerika lernte er Bauhausarchitekten wie Mies van der Rohe kennen und arbeitete über Jahre hinweg eng mit Marcel Breuer zusammen. In dem Bungalow, den er schon zu Beginn der 50er Jahre in Düsseldorf für sich selbst gebaut hat, vereinen sich seine eigenen Ideen mit seiner Begeisterung für das Bauhaus und den Erfahrungen, die er mit der Architektur des Mid-Century Modernism in Kalifornien gemacht hat.
Die Zeche hat auch Ursache, meine Weichenstellung für meines Lebens, für mein ganzes Leben, weil es war so der Anfang. Der Anfang war genau richtig, der kam gerade auf der richtigen Bahn, was ich vielleicht ohne Zeche vielleicht in 20 Jahren erreicht hätte. Nicht wahr? Die Sekretärin bringt gleich einen Text, wo die Dinge nochmal geschildert sind. Das geht nämlich mit dem Haus zum Beispiel so, die Zeche wurde gebaut und ich kriege auch viel Geld. Und dann, als junger Architekt, wo kriegt man gleich so ein dickes Projekt, wo man einige tausend Euro plötzlich kriegt, konnte ich mir das Grundstück kaufen. Und dann habe ich mich auch über die Literatur der Weltarchitektur erkundigt. Dann kriege ich da auch schöne Häuser von Neutra, von Mies van der Rohe, auch von Frank Lloyd Wright, der auch sehr schönes Haus am Wasserfall ist. Sehr schön. Ja. Das habe ich alles damals sehr genossen und dann habe ich einen Plan selber gemacht, erstmal so ein Bungalow. Aber irgendwie kam ich nicht so richtig zurecht mit der Technik und wie das dann zusammenhing. Jetzt zum Beispiel diese Balken, die Sie sehen, die rauskommen, die gehen durch das ganze Haus durch, kommen hinten wieder raus. Da ist einen halben Meter höher das Dach und dazwischen gehangene Decke, die ist jetzt, bildet ja einen Hohlraum. Nicht wahr? Den Hohlraum habe ich mit Glaswolle gefüllt. Eine Isolierung, die irrsinnig ist, da geht also überhaupt keine Kälte mehr durch, ohne zu wissen, was wir heute in diesem Problem erkennen und machen. Das habe ich 1950 gemacht. Ich hatte Angst vor den Fenstern, dass ich das Haus so sehr abkühle und dann ein Übermaß an Isolierung gemacht. Ich habe genau das getroffen, was man heute als Isolierung gerne macht. Naja, und dann war ich trotzdem nicht ganz sicher, wie macht das technisch. Also dann bin ich nach Amerika geflogen und habe dann mich mit einigen großen Kollegen getroffen. Mies van der Rohe getroffen in New York. Und dann gab es ein Abendessen, da kam dann Marcel Breuer. Habe ich mit Marcel Breuer gesprochen, kennengelernt. Und dann empfahl er mir, fahren Sie mal nach Los Angeles, also die Häuser von Neutra, die sind doch das, was ihr auch mal kennenlernen solltet. Ja, okay, Los Angeles. Dann bin ich dann in so einem kleinen Ort, wo er sein Haus hatte. Ich weiß nicht mehr, wo das war, aber wie das hieß. Jetzt habe ich Neutra getroffen.
Hallo. Toll.
Ja, hallo.
Ja, Richtung Klinkele, genau. Hier vorne ist das aktualisierte Exemplar vom 18.11. und das ist etwas länger hier, das war vom 8.11. Das war das vorige.
Okay.
Wir haben das etwas gekürzt.
Danke.
Genau.
Das ist ja nett.
Naja, also jedenfalls habe ich mir da mal vor Ort angesehen, wie die ganzen Entwicklungen in Amerika waren. Da war ja nicht ein solches Haus, da waren ja auch Dutzend. Und dann habe ich viele angeguckt und gedacht, ich habe nicht was abgeguckt, ich habe nur die Entwicklung gesehen und habe dann auf dieser Basis mein eigenes Haus entwickelt. Das wollte ich auch, wollte mein eigenes Haus sein. Naja, und dann, das war 52, 53 und dann war ich 54 fertig. 54 bin ich eingezogen.
Also das gibt also so früh, wenn man sich das vorstellt, dass der Kanzlerbungalow, der ist ja dann erst in den 60er Jahren dann gelebt. Und da haben die Leute noch darüber diskutiert, ob man ein Land mit einem Bungalow präsentieren kann. War das ja da auch noch nicht so ganz bei allen.
Ja, da wird mir auch vorgehalten, das Bungalow hatte so Ähnlichkeit mit dem Kanzlerbungalow. Ich sage, ja, ist doch so ähnlich. Er hat nur einen Unterschied zwischen den beiden Häusern. Ich bin 1954 eingezogen und der Kanzler 1964. Die Antwort ist klar. Ich habe danach noch einige Bungalows gebaut, die eher noch schöner sind. Und auch meine eigene Sache entwickelt daraus. Jedenfalls war dieses der erste Bungalow in Deutschland. Der perfekte, richtige Bauhaus-Bungalow in Deutschland. Und deshalb hat die Regierung es unter Denkmalschutz gestellt.
Ja.
Ich darf es nicht ändern.
Nee, ach ja, was
Ich will es ja nicht.
Nee.
Ich sage immer, wenn ich noch jetzt, wenn ich noch mal jetzt 30 wäre, würde ich mir noch mal ein Haus bauen wollen. Ich würde es so bauen.
Ja, ja.
Alle Erfahrung, die ich mittlerweile gesammelt habe in Architektur und so weiter, ich würde es glatt so bauen, wie ich es damals gebaut habe. Es hat sich in der Bewohnbarkeit perfekt bewiesen. Wir können ja noch mal durchgehen, kann Ihnen noch verschiedene Zimmer zeigen.
Ja.
Also alles, was da ist, ist so, wie es besser nicht geht. Und da ist auch eben die Architektur des Bauhaus schon ein Maßstab, den man gelten lassen kann, weil man kann ihn nicht versteigern. Man kann ihn, was soll ich noch schöner machen? Ne? Der Gedanke Bauhaus kommt immer wieder durch.
Ja, das ist doch das Interessante, dass die Bauhausleute alle nach Amerika gegangen sind und dann die Leute nach dem Krieg, die Architekten nach Amerika gefahren sind, um dort dann wieder den Anschluss ans Bauhaus zu bekommen.
Das war eine Entwicklung aus Weimar, teilweise auch mit Österreicher verbunden, eine Entwicklung, die einfach Weltentwicklung war, Weltarchitektur entstand dort. Und das musste man einfach auch kennenlernen. Der Krieg hat uns da total von entfernt. Nicht? Hitler hatte diese Architekten und Künstler gar nicht gewollt. Und sie haben sich da weiterentwickelt in Amerika und dieser Sprung, der fehlt uns ja. Nicht wahr? Und dass wir nach dem Krieg erstmal den Anschluss wieder brauchten. Deshalb bin ich mehrfach in Amerika gewesen damals. Mein Haus sähe heute nicht so aus, wenn ich das nicht gemacht hätte. Nicht wahr? Und das war Anfang der 50er Jahre. Nicht? 54 bin ich eingezogen, das ist auch hier perfekt.
Also wirklich 54. Also ich kann jetzt nur schwärmen, wirklich. Völlig euphorisiert.
Ich zeige Ihnen noch ein schöneres Haus hier in der Nachbarschaft.
Noch ein schöneres als Ihres? Ein weiteres sehr frühes Beispiel für einen Flachdach-Bungalow, der sich genauso auch in Kalifornien befinden könnte, ist das Wohnhaus, das der Düsseldorfer Architekt Paul Schneider-Esleben für Familie Riedel in Grüten baute, einem Ort zwischen Düsseldorf und Wuppertal.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Los Angeles. The local time.
Irmgard Riedel, die zusammen mit ihrem Mann Erich den Bungalow 1952 in Auftrag gegeben hatte, nähte sich in ihrer Freizeit hellblaue Blusen in allen Schattierungen. Hellblau war ihre Lieblingsfarbe, aber auch die der Details ihres Hauses, wie zum Beispiel der Fensterrahmen. Einige der Blusen bekam ich im Rahmen meiner Recherchen geschenkt. Ich malte mir aus, wie Frau Riedel auf der Terrasse ihres kalifornischen Bungalows in Grüten saß, ihre hellblauen Blusen nähte und vom Pazifik träumte. Die Blusen, die so voller Sehnsucht steckten, nahm ich mit nach Los Angeles und trug sie dort.
signing this book because it's one of the few survivors of a disaster where we lost 400 copies of this book because they got soaked with water and they were ruined. And so I'm signing this one copy for Julia so she can try to iron it out and save at least one example. Yeah. So there you go.
Thank you. That's really.
And this is right
really...
on the back side is my father's dedication to me of the book.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
I see it. So I really say thank you. This is really extremely impressive.
Yeah, this is a nice memento of a disaster. Yeah.
Bevor ich mich nun auf den Weg zu meinem ersten richtigen Drehtag mit Dion Neutra machte, brachte ich noch einige letzte Stiche an meinem Rock an, den ich mir zu Frau Riedels hellblauen Blusen genäht hatte. Dion hatte mich eingeladen, seine Führungen durch das Reunion-Haus zu dokumentieren. Das Reunion-Haus stammte ursprünglich von Richard Neutra. 1966 hatte es der Sohn Dion umgebaut und lebte seit Jahren dort.
Like on my year schedule, I just, like on my year schedule, I just,
going to talk a little bit about the history of the reunion house. In 1950, a developer came from Chicago who said that he had talked to Frank Lloyd Wright about building a house. Wright had told him, in the wintertime we don't build in Chicago. Why don't you go to California and see Richard Neutra? Maybe you can get a house built there, and when you're finished in the summertime, come back and let's talk about building a house in the Chicago area. Anyway, that's what the man told us when he came to our office. So we selected this site, and we invented a client who would be a retired couple who would invite their kids to come and visit for the weekend. They would live at one end of the house, and the kids could have space at the other end of the house, so not to disturb each other. And we would call that the reunion house. So that's how the name came. The man went ahead and built the house. I was here during the pouring of the foundation because I graduated from USC in the summer of 1950 when this house was being built. So I go back all the way to the very beginning. I remembered that at the time that we made provision around the garage area to be able to add a second floor. So many years later, when we actually acquired the house, I went to the plans and looked at them and actually convinced the building department that we could add the second floor. So over there is the garage, and there's a very charming apartment added above that is now a rental. So anyway, that's the story. The interesting thing was in 1963, when the fire happened at VDL, my parents were living in an apartment, and this house came on the market, so they ended up buying it and living here for 2 years. And after that period, when they were ready to move back to the VDL, they offered us the chance to live here, and so we bought the house from them. And I lived here for 20 some odd years with my second wife and 2 kids. So that was kind of the history of that, and basically I've lived here ever since the mid-60s. So I've lived here for a long time. Still from 1950. Indoor-outdoor living instant service. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Now we go outside?
Yeah. While my father was here, he added the pools out in front, and he also added some mirrors over there, which if I didn't tell you they were mirrors, you wouldn't realize it. That is an optical illusion that the ceiling goes through to the next part of the house. 2 years later, while the reconstruction was going on at the VDL, I was in the back, lived in the back with my second wife and 2 kids. During that time, we supervised the construction of that every day. At the end of the 2 years, when the building was completed, my parents were ready to move back. They said, well, why don't we rent this house to you, and you can be here and still be close to the office and everything. So we agreed to do that. And so I lived here with my second wife and 2 kids for the next 20 years until we had a War of the Roses discussion about who's going to get this house when we get a divorce. So, the long story short, I managed to get the house finally, and I've lived here ever since.
Eventually got it.
One of the things I like to point out here is this sort of interesting feature. This piece of plywood here is 9 feet tall. You cannot get a piece of plywood like that anymore. Right? And it's the original slash green fir without the bolts, all the patches that you see when you get plywood today. You see lots of patches. So this is really a collector's item. This is very unusual stuff. Could never be replicated, but there you have it. It's the history in the making. Yeah. This ceiling that you see over your head is a very interesting design. We did about 4 houses using this design in that period. This is the only one that still has the feature. It is extremely labor intensive if you think about it, because you have to take this long piece of wood and hold it up to the ceiling and then blind nail from both sides to hold each piece. You can imagine the labor cost of doing something like that today. It's impossible. So it's interesting, we have insurance that's supposed to pay for, replicating historic stuff, but good luck, we would never be able to do it.
I'm curious if that's
Materialize the structure in the corner by not having the books really
I remember there's one picture that I think it might be you and your mom, Gianni, on the roof looking out.
That was a VDL.
As a VDL.
Yeah. We took another picture later in her life of the same pose, just to have another picture 50 years later.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was great. So, yeah, and the table that was showing in there is still in the corner of our living room, a round chrome-plated table designed by Neutra, and it appears in each of the pictures. We came up with a very complicated system of these are individual pieces of wood which are held by cabinet catches in place.
Oh, I see.
So when we want to relamp that fixture, we have to take these pieces of wood off, unscrew that thing and hinge down and change the fix to put everything back together again. It's a huge production.
Yeah.
So, some of those details are really, it's mind-boggling, the amount of concern and effort that was put into it at that time.
The way you tell all the history is so fantastic, as if you were somehow constantly doing lectures and all this. You speak so fluently, so it's really a great pleasure to listen to you. So, Dion, I hope, because I'm also documenting a little bit the documentation, and so it's great.
So anyway, we'll carry on again. It's a good idea to do the VDL, and maybe we do something about treetops. So that would be good.
So great. I'm so happy that now we have started with our legendary project. And thank you for your patience. Okay.
Okay, good for you. Yeah. All right. Take care.
Yes, and then
take care. Yeah.
Von Berlin aus wanderte der im Jahr 1892 in Wien geborene Richard Neutra 1924 nach Amerika aus. In Chicago arbeitete er bei Frank Lloyd Wright, folgte dann aber seinem Freund, dem Architekten Rudolf Schindler, nach Los Angeles. Schindler stammte ebenfalls aus Wien und hatte bei Otto Wagner und Adolf Loos studiert. Damals war Los Angeles noch eine flirrende Fata Morgana am entfernten Pazifik. Die Filmbranche etablierte sich dort gerade erst und das Hollywood-Zeichen warb schlicht für Bauland. Der Naturheilarzt und Gesundheitsguru Philip M. Lovell, der an die heilende Kraft von Licht, Luft und Sonne glaubte, ließ sich zunächst von Rudolf Schindler 1926 in Newport Beach ein Strandhaus bauen. Bei Neutra gab er dann ein Jahr später ein weiteres Haus in Auftrag, das schließlich auf einem riesigen Grundstück im Stadtteil Los Feliz gebaut wurde. Das Lovell Health House. Das Griffith Observatory, das man heute von dort aus sieht, entstand allerdings erst 1935. Seit 1960 wohnen Ken und seine Mutter Betty Topper im Lovell Health House. Am Tag nach meinem Besuch bei Dion Neutra im Reunion House in Silver Lake machte ich mich auf den Weg zum Lovell Health House. Dort erzählte mir Ken Topper, wie er in dem Haus aufgewachsen ist und wer eigentlich Morris Saperstein war.
Well, how my dad came to know the house, he grew up playing with the Lovell boys here at the Lovell Health House. And so that's how he came to know the house, and I guess to appreciate the house. And so in 1960, my parents bought the house. I was 1 year old, so really any memories that I have are all here of childhood. But what's it like to live here is you appreciate it more the longer that you live here, the older that you get, the more that you see people that travel from all over the world to come to see it. And for me, I come here every day. So it's like a little different, but begin to appreciate how significant it was, and also that this could be designed in 1929 and still look modern today is always, what piques my interest. And so as I get older, I want to know more about how the house was built, more about the guy that had it built, Dr. Lovell, as well as the relationship with Dr. Lovell, Richard Neutra, and also Rudolf Schindler, and how all three of those people are all integrally involved in the story of the Lovell Health House. How's that? Of 28, the newly minted Dr. Lovell opened an office in downtown LA, advertising himself as a drugless practitioner. So one of his first patients was Harry Chandler. Cool. Yeah, they said that they think Lovell took the name off of a poster, just like Neutra got the idea to come to California. It says California calls. I mean also that Schindler had been writing him letters telling him what a great time he was having out here. And so Neutra writes Schindler, he says, "Get me out of here." Because Schindler missed the war. It says Schindler left like 3 months before the war starts. Neutra gets stuck and goes like, probably the beginning of their love-hate with each other. Huh?
And the great, incredible story how Mr. Lovell changed his name, and because this was really cool.
Yes, he went from Morris Saperstein to Dr. Philip M. Lovell.
Yes.
And so, but what's interesting is reading that book that I was earlier today, Sunsetters, which is available.
Yeah.
You can go buy that at your favorite bookstore. That they both, Neutra sees a poster encouraging him to come to California while he's still in Europe. Yeah. And Dr. Lovell, before he's Dr. Lovell, while he's Morris Saperstein, I guess, sees a poster with the name Lovell on it, decides that's the name that he wants. So that by posters, they both eventually end up together here, what becomes the Lovell Health House. So imagine it was called the Saperstein Health House. Not quite the same.
Yeah.
So, anyway, you know, that's the story that I know in 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Thank you. And you are sitting in a chair that was originally built, designed for this house.
Designed for the house by Richard Neutra.
By Richard Neutra.
This, as well as, I don't know if that one's in the background, but that one back there.
Yes.
The only two pieces of furniture designed for the house.
This is really incredible.
That aren't built in.
Yes, and they are still there.
Still here. Actually, the house has sold. Yeah. We're the fourth owners. So the chairs have sold separate from the house each time. There's been people that have offered to buy these chairs separate from the house, but my mom would never let that happen. So I feel like these chairs belong to the house. So, you know, if you get the house, you get the chairs.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to buy them, but you're going to buy them to keep in the house. All right.
Okay.
Anyway.
Ken, but as long as it is still recording, I just jump into the picture, because then we have a picture of both of us, and I think this is cool. I mean, it's also maybe I can do a screenshot.
Oh,
so this is so.
Nikki, come on over here. Come on.
This is funny. So
say hi to wherever this is going.
So
my mother's physical therapist.
This is really cool. Yeah.
But this is health.
Yeah. This is also health.
This is my mother regaining her health in the health house,
really
courtesy of the lovely Nikki.
Yeah. This is really legendary, because really, and Mrs. Topper seems. I mean, she has been living in this house since
60 years.
60 years now, and kept her health in such a good condition. This is really.
These stairs help you do that. When you climb up and down them as many times as she has. So, what do you have to say, Nikki?
I'm shy. Thank you so much, really.
Toppers ließen mich stundenlang in ihrem Lovell Health House herumstreifen. Betty war in der Küche, Ken hatte das Haus verlassen und ich verinnerlichte all die Schönheit, die sich mir darbot. Ich saß alleine im Wohnzimmer, auf dem Sessel, den Neutra für Lovell entworfen hatte, und blätterte schließlich in Thomas Heinzes Buch über Neutra. Was ich dort entdeckte, war so unglaublich, dass es genau in diese Atmosphäre passte. Die Schauspielerin Luise Reiner, die aus Düsseldorf stammte, wanderte 1935 nach Los Angeles aus und gewann in 2 aufeinanderfolgenden Jahren einen Oscar als beste Hauptdarstellerin. Im Stadtmuseum Düsseldorf hängt ein Bild, das Arthur Kaufmann von der jungen, melancholisch dreinblickenden Luise Reiner gemalt hatte, 1928, noch bevor sie nach Hollywood ging. Und genau zu der Zeit, als das Lovell Health House dort gebaut wurde. Und nun also fand ich ein Foto von Luise Reiner und Richard Neutra, aufgenommen von Julius Schulman. Luise Reiner wohnte in Los Angeles tatsächlich in einem der Strathmore Apartments, 1937 gebaut, von Richard Neutra.
So today is May the 10th, 2019, and we're sitting in the pool area of Treetops. I'm going to give you a little history of this project so you can go along with everything you've done so far. A good resource for this is the Beyond My Life, Volume 2, the appendix. Chapter 15 is entitled The Saga of Treetops. So there's a whole story in here about this thing. So eventually you should get this book to be able to read about this.
Yes.
And here's
yes, that's
back. Also, we published a monograph about treetops some years ago. A very nice book that my brother put together, which has a few photos.
Oh yes,
beautiful. There's the famous tree.
Yes,
she probably got.
Yeah, really, yeah.
So let me tell you the history of this story a little bit. The office was very busy at the end of the 70s. We were gearing up to do a very large library project in Thousand Oaks. Unfortunately, at the time, we were down to only a couple of draftsmen. And when the city came to our office to look at facilities, they saw an empty drafting room with not a lot of people, and they became scared that we could handle the project. So we lost the project. They backed away from it, and I was left with a sort of a vacuum. We had been studying how to develop this empty lot for some time before that. So I quickly got the plans out to see what the status was. The zoning would permit a 2-family house. And so rather than just build a swimming pool, which I originally thought of doing here alone, why not develop the site to its maximum and get the most we could possibly get out of it? So then we had so many trees here that we decided to call this treetops. The main tree, of course, is the one in the back that you saw already. But other trees around here it was beautiful. You look out, you see lots of trees. And we thought it's like being in the mountains. It's beautiful. You could see in this picture here how nice the wood looked originally.
Yes.
It's getting darker and darker as it ages. It gets blacker and blacker. That's the way it is in nature. Everything gets darker. Yeah. The construction took nearly a year longer than we thought because of the weather and all the problems and difficulty that we had. But finally, in 1980, early 1980, I was able to get what's called a certificate of occupancy, which means the city approves what's been built. So there were 2 units. There was the front unit and the back unit. The front unit consists of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, with a nice big living room overlooking the northern view over the street out to the mountains. The upper unit, this is 1 unit, consists of 2 floors. The one has a very nice deck, also looking out to the north. The upper level has a deck going toward the west and looking at the lake, beautiful view of the lake through the trees. So that was the way the project started.
And you even see the Hollywood sign from here.
Yeah, you can even see this Hollywood sign if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it's always a Hollywood, sort of a Hollywood-based group here that seem to love this place. You have the lake close by. You have the ability to walk around the lake. It's 2.5 miles, the perfect length to walk. People love to jog around with their dogs and cats. So that's kind of a little background of the building, the way it stands right now in 2019. So this is all double glazing here to reduce the amount of sound between upstairs and downstairs. The building code keeps reducing the amount of glass that you can have, less and less glass, on the theory that you're losing heat through the windows. But you also lose a chance to have a wonderful exposure to nature. And Neutra architecture is about putting man in relationship to nature. So how do you do that if you can't have windows? So I've concentrated all my windows facing the view, and a few little pieces here and there to get other views, but mostly I would have had much more glass if I'd been allowed to. In the background, on the next several lots, are Neutra houses designed in the 60s, comprising Neutra Place, which is this little street down below. We had the street renamed Neutra Place in 1992 in honor of my father's 100th birthday. He was born in 1892 in Vienna. In 1992 in Los Angeles, we dedicated this little street and changed it from Argent Place to Neutra Place. The street has been called Neutra Place now from 92 until 19, that's over 20 years. All the houses on the street facing are Neutra designs, and there are 4 houses that back up to the street that face Silver Lake Boulevard, also Neutra designs. So in the neighborhood here we have 10 Neutra designs, and so Neutra Place is a good name for the street. At that time we had many more trees here than we do now. A number of the trees have died for whatever reason, and so the view looking out now is more open than it used to be. There were more trees in the foreground, but now they're gone. So things change. And that same appendix that I showed you earlier, there's a chapter called entropy. Entropy, it means inevitable changes that happen in spite of anything we can do about it. Things get older, things die, they change. And so I wrote a story about it in that appendix. So we can walk around a little bit and see what we can see here, kind of roughly get an idea. I have asked tree people, is it possible to trim a little bit from the tops of these trees? They say, no, it's not possible, because you have to send somebody up. The branches have to be strong enough to hold somebody to get up there to cut. And none of these trunks are heavy, strong enough to hold a person. The trunk of the tree are so wonderful, always changing, you know, as the bark falls off, you get a change of look. Yeah. Windows here, I cut down the sound transmission between spaces. You can see another skylight over there. So this is the second kitchen, which great shot of the pool down there again. It's so interesting to keep up with all these changes, you know. Always some changes. It's almost like an artistic thing, the way the pool has weathered over the years, the blue, various shades of blue. That's all because of the pool people who've maintained the pool over the years sometimes use too much chemical, and that leaches away at the copper piping, and that stains the plaster in that color. So it's a completely random piece of art done by the machines, not by humans. But I love the effect of it. I used to swim there every day, but unfortunately my back has gotten so bad that I haven't been able to do it recently. But I hope to get back to it again sometime. Come, can you sneak in here with the camera?
Yeah, of course.
So this is a interesting story here. When we first built the building, I remembered that we had to go down through the adobe to reach bedrock. So all the footings had to be going down into the ground quite a bit in order to do that. At a certain point, I wanted to have extra storage. I remembered this place and I came and looked at it, and we decided we could dig all the dirt out that was up here and go all the way down and still have the foundation sitting on the proper soil. So I was able to create this entire crawl space out of nothing. In other words, this was dirt all the way up to here, going down to here. So how do we get this dirt out of here? So I opened up this window here, and we brought the dirt out through the window around to the driveway, and the trucks were outside to pick up the dirt. Very expensive. But you can see all of the storage space that I was able to create here by doing that. Recently, we noticed some moisture in here, and we looked up at the ceiling, and right up there, if you look straight ahead, there's one piece of pipe that looks a little bit shiny. There was water coming out of that pipe, spraying water all over the place. And so we had to get a plumber on the weekend, $500 to make a little patch there and stop the leak. And we thought we were okay because everything else here in front was okay. It didn't get wet. It was mostly back there it got wet. Later on, we discovered that we had some books in cartons stored in the back corner there. And all those books got completely soaked with water. So we lost $4,000 worth of books. But fortunately, the water stopped, and we're not losing any more. But these are all plans that we have stored, and these are books, Neutra books that are stored in boxes. Still has a dial tone, so that I can call out from there using the dial. That's a rotary dial. You know about our library in Huntington Beach, right? I'm very proud of this idea of the microwave tower in 1970, but long before the internet.
Yeah.
The idea of reaching out to collect knowledge from wherever you are in the world. No matter where it's stored, we can suck it in through there and bring it into the library and you can look at it. This is a specification book for the Huntington Beach Library. This is the specification. That's what it looked like at that time. Yeah. This is the way we specify the different trades, you know, to be what the work was to be done. So it's an antique. Yeah. Anyway, that's the story. Very difficult. Yeah. So, that's pretty much the picture of treetops.
An einem der nächsten Tage war ich mit Dion Neutra im VDL Research House in Los Angeles Silver Lake verabredet. Richard Neutra hatte das Haus 1932 für sich und seine Familie entworfen. Nach einem verheerenden Brand im Jahr 1963 hatte es Dion in veränderter Form wieder aufgebaut.
Okay, everybody is. Here's the famous left-hand turn, which is you take your life in your hands, and people refuse to have a signal light here in order to make it easier. This man is trying to turn. He's looking both ways. It's very scary. You have to choose. You see here, traffic is coming. They're rushing. Other people are rushing. It's very difficult. Very difficult. Well, it'll be a very short session today, unfortunately. Oh, this woman picked the wrong moment to come there. That's a bad moment, lady. Okay. All right. Trip to BDL. Hello.
How are you? It's fantastic.
Okay, this penthouse that we're sitting right now was added as an additional feature when we rebuilt the house after the fire in 1963. What was here before was an open trellis with a couch. My father would come up here and he would take a rest, and there was an overhead structure sort of reminiscent of this overhead. And that was it. It was not enclosed like this. So when we went to get the permit to rebuild after the fire, I showed the city photographs of this thing because they said, I'm sorry, there's no third floor permitted in this area. I said, but we had a third floor before. Could we please have it again? And then they looked at the photographs and said, well, okay, yes. You had it before, we'll let you do it again. So instead of an open air trellis, I built this room, which is air conditioned and which is larger and has a storage room over there. And later on we had an elevator which came all the way up to this level. So my mother, even though she, at the end of her life, she lost one leg, she was still able to come up in the elevator, and she spent her days up here. She enjoyed it. There was a desk there in the corner, and she used to love it. This was her favorite spot in the whole project. Okay, in 1950, well, before 1950, this building was built originally in 1932, 90 years ago. At that time, the lake, water of the lake came right to the street, the other side of the street. My father was attracted to this site because you could look out at the lake and you could see trees in the distance reflecting in the water. He loved that look. It reminded him of Switzerland. So, for the next 20 years, we enjoyed that view. In about 1950, the Department of Water and Power announced that they are going to fill in what we call the East Bay. That's this part of the lake right here. Why are they going to fill it in? Well, because the wind is blowing primarily from the southwest, blows debris into the corner here. The debris in the corner stagnates and causes water quality problems. At that time, the lake was used to store water for drinking, city of Los Angeles. So they didn't want to deal with these problems. So they thought their answer is to fill this thing in and get rid of the problem. Well, that's something, first of all, we would lose our view to the lake, and so would everybody else on this side of the lake. Many, many hundreds of people sitting up on the hill looking down are not going to see the lake anymore. So we tried desperately to convince them not to do it. Then I said, okay, how about this? Let's build a huge reflection pool. Instead of lawn and mowing it and watering it and taking care of it, let's put a reflection pool in, which is much less maintenance and uses much less water in the end, and gives the people from a hillside over there a sort of a memory of what the water was like. They would not consider it. So anyway, we couldn't stop them. They went ahead and filled it in, and for 25 years this area was closed off to the public, was sort of taken care of with lawn that they would mow and water, and that was it for 25 years. In 1963, there was a terrible fire here in the site. The building was so badly compromised that the city said to us, you have to tear the building down to this foundation. If you want to rebuild, you have to start from scratch and build up again. So, at first my father, who is now 72, said, I can't go through this. This is too much for me. Let's just leave the slab, the original foundation slab, and then back is the garden house which survived the fire, and that will be our legacy for the future. I said, okay, that's one idea. I said, but I tell you what, we do have insurance, so why don't you let me check and see what the insurance people say and how can we do this. So I went to the city and I said, we'd like to rebuild as close as possible to the original. I wrote a book called My 9 Decades in Silver Lake. I've been here longer than anybody else. Nobody has lived here longer than me. So, the question is, what have I observed during these 90 years? So I decided to make a history of that and talk about all the ideas that I had over this period of time. It's a good book. It's available from Amazon. One of the ideas that came up was in 1970, in April 16th, 1970, my father was lecturing in Germany, in Wuppertal, and had a sudden heart attack and passed away unexpectedly at the age of 78. Nobody was expecting it, although he had predicted, he had 2 other heart attacks, and so he was being told to be careful, and it just happened. My mother was there, and I immediately got on the telephone with her and said, I'm coming over to be with you. She said, no, you don't have to. I've been expecting this for a long time. I can handle this. She didn't think that maybe I needed, for myself, to have closure with my own father by seeing him one last time. She didn't think that way. So I did not go over there. She ended up having his remains cremated and brought them back in a box. And so that's how I said goodbye to my father. She showed me a box and said, Dad, sorry I couldn't have been there earlier, but goodbye and good luck. And she stored that box for the longest time in a closet downstairs because you weren't allowed to do anything privately with ashes in those days. Many years later, we had the idea that we could bury the ashes in the patio, BDL, and create a kind of a marker, a tombstone marker, where we honor the people who worked so hard for this place, including my mother, my father, and me. So my mother was getting to the end of her life. She lived for 20 years later than my father. And then toward the end, she said, I'd like to be cremated and my remains put next to Richard in the patio. Okay. So I created a tombstone, which is downstairs, and you can photograph it later, which has the dates of the three parties, except for me, it doesn't have a final date. You have to fill in that date later. It's called, these are people who are the creators of this place. Creators of this place, and believers that man's survival depends on his design. It says on that tombstone. So anyway, that was the plan, and but then over time, I proposed this design of a what I call ecology garden. In 1970, winter 1970, right after the first Earth Day was celebrated 1 week after my father passed away. He didn't get to see it. So there was an article in this magazine showing a nice picture of us together and talking about this plan that I came up with. The idea was to have water coming from the lake back all the way to the street, so that there would be a connection between the water of the lake and the site in the distance. So that was the plan that I came up in 1970. It's now 49 years later, and I still can't get anybody to say that's a good idea. The latest version of it looks like this, and I'm trying to convince that there's people doing master planning around here. I'm trying to convince them, let's implement this and let's do this at the end.
I have two questions for you. The one is, of course, I have your northwest corner, your book about the northwest corner. Yeah. And then I told you about Mr. Walter Brune from Düsseldorf, who was so nice as to give me, he wrote me an email and told me, could you please hand this book over to Mr. Neutra, because he really visited your father in 1950. And when he came back, when he came back from Los Angeles, he really designed his own house in under the impression of his trip to Los Angeles.
Yeah, you have the pool, the stairway, the up above. It's very reminiscent of the Kaufman house.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
I just have to take one photo for Mr. Brune. This because he was so glad to have this connection. He will be really happy about this.
Yeah.
Really, because he is of your age and he's a great fan of the Bauhaus and so all this.
That's very nice.
Really, and he worked together with Marcel Breuer and often traveled to the United States.
And he liked Pierre Koenig as well.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I see a little bit of Pierre Koenig.
Yeah.
Very nice. There you go.
Yeah, thank
Good
you
luck.
so much.
Good luck.
Thank you, Dion. Really, this was an incredible.
And this book is for you or for me?
Yeah, this is for you.
This is for me.
Really, he wants wants me to give this, to hand over the book
to me, but he didn't sign it for me.
No, it was a little bit in a rush.
Yeah,
and,
about the boom. Yeah,
but he really is. This is. I think it is nice to establish this connection between Düsseldorf and Los Angeles, and the whole architectural context and the relation between the architecture, because you would be surprised.
Yeah, nice man.
Yeah, really. He like you, he goes on working, and he's working on his ideas, and so it's so great to see the impact you and your father have on European architecture. And really, this is I mean, it's a completely different landscape.
Yeah, really.
The ideas.
Very good.
Yeah. So.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very nice.
And
so I got
you
2 books to carry. Maybe you can help me.
Yes,
carry
of
them.
course. I will help you.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So the next stop is to UCLA next week.
Yes.
And then we see what happens. What else we need to do. So I need to go back and check to make sure that Lynn has enough peanut butter.
Yes, you're right.
Maybe I can do it. I think I can do it. In my book, the Neutras Then and Later, I feature a design my father did on this corner in 1934. In doing research on that, I discovered that I didn't know about this design at all. It was a complete surprise. He found this sketch, 1926. Obviously it was not built. It was designed at a time when there was a depression coming on, and the depression basically sank the project, so it did not go ahead. But I was left with this sketch, and I thought, my God, this is such a beautiful design. Why not build this today? Could be. It's a parking lot. So I tried to approach the owners to say, look, can we interrupt everything long enough to design this and build a basement garage to replace the parking and build the high-rise on top. They said, sorry, we can't afford to do that. The revenue stream is too high. We can't afford to forego the income for 3 years. So, fast forward, we're going to have this program at the end of May in which we discuss this whole idea, and there's some very people with lots of money come to this club, so I'm hoping to attract somebody who will say, oh, hey, that's actually interesting. I will buy these people out, and I have the patience to wait until you get your plans done, do the construction of the basement, and let's build a high-rise at the end of the Walk of Fame when you walk down Hollywood Boulevard. This would be the end of it, and then there's a Pantages Theater right across the street. It would be a perfect solution for this corner. The back cover of the book shows the design my father did in 1934 for the same client, Carl Lemley. And that building actually was built, but was only lasted about 4 or 5 years until it was messed up. And the whole story is in this book.
Bevor ich Dion einen letzten Besuch vor meinem Rückflug nach Düsseldorf abstattete, recherchierte ich mehrere Tage lang im Archiv der UCLA, der Universität von Los Angeles. Ich las Neutras Korrespondenz mit dem Düsseldorfer Stadtbaudirektor Friedrich Thams und mit Konrad und Gabriele Henkel und schaute mir die fantastischsten Entwürfe an. Obwohl Neutra seinen Entwurf für das Schauspielhaus Düsseldorf Ende der 50er und Anfang der 60er Jahre mit großem Interesse und Aufwand betrieb und er zusammen mit Bernhard Pfau in die Endrunde gelangte, wurde schließlich Pfaus organisch geschwungener Plan umgesetzt. Auch Neutras Entwurf für einen groß angelegten Bungalow für Gabriele und Konrad Henkel wurde leider nicht gebaut. Das Ehepaar zog den Auftrag nach diversen Änderungen und langem Überlegen zurück. Als Begründung gaben sie an, dass sie befürchteten, dass die großen Fenster ungewollte Einblicke in das Privatleben der Familie gewährten. In Wuppertal baute Richard Neutra hingegen in den 60er Jahren 2 fantastische Bungalows, Haus Kemper und Haus Pescher. Dabei ist es ihm gelungen, durch die perfekt aufeinander abgestimmten Formen und Proportionen und durch das Zusammenspiel kostbarer Materialien, abgestimmt auf das hiesige Klima und unter dem Einsatz all der Charakteristika, die einen typischen kalifornischen Bungalow ausmachen, die typische Atmosphäre von Los Angeles ins Bergische Land zu transportieren.
Henkel, Düsseldorf. God. Today is the, what, 17th?
Thank you, Dion. This is really...
So this will be interesting for you
Yes.
to look at.
Bauen und die Sinneswelt, ja.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dion. This is really...
Yeah. So, but I had no idea about this particular house.
Yes.
Even though there was a huge amount of work done on that,
Yes,
obviously.
that there are also plans that were drawn by another architectural company somehow. This is strange.
Which are very different.
Yeah, there's only this stamp on it, Konrad Henkel NC GmbH Architekturbüro.
Well, you know, we made a contact with a local firm to work with, so maybe these are the people. But why they made a separate set of plans, I don't know.
Or did they only change the original plans a bit and made suggestions or something like that? This is really something that I have to find out in the Henkel archive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Henkel Architekturbüro.
Yeah.
This is this is about the different levels of the area where the building was planned to be constructed. They already had bought an area in the northeast of Düsseldorf. What I found extremely beautiful that afterwards your father drew all these beautiful plants. And this is so much full of imagination.
Yeah.
But in addition to this, in addition to this strict construction, there's this opulent nature, like
Just look at all the parking spaces out in front.
The parking. These are the parking
spaces, yeah, that's cars.
Yes.
8 cars in there, 7 cars. They expect a lot of guests.
Yes. Yeah, they were really famous for their parties, actually, and like animals. Yeah. Would have had and this is, and I also saw drawings of the Strathmore apartments here in the UCLA, where Louise Rainer lived. And this is also a beautiful connection to Düsseldorf, that the actress Louise Rainer moved from Düsseldorf to Los Angeles, and she won 2 Oscars and lived in the Strathmore apartments. In the collection of the Stadtmuseum we have a painting of her by Arthur Kaufmann, and this was before she left to Los Angeles, when she was 18.
I have a funny story, because we were supposed to visit with her in her apartment in Strathmore, and so my parents were in the living room waiting, and we were all supposed to be waiting for her to come, and she was in her bedroom getting ready. And so I had to use the bathroom, so I asked if I could go down the hall to the bathroom. I went down the hall, but I opened the wrong door, and opened the door and looked, and it was into her bedroom. And she was still practically nude, getting dressed.
Really?
I excused myself, I'm sorry, it's the wrong door, I'm going to the bathroom. It was very funny.
This makes it even more legendary.
Yeah,
but
very nice.
Really have
very nice, yeah. And she became a good friend to my mother after that.
Really?
Yeah, they became good friends. In fact, I think she was responsible for inviting us once to a movie shoot where she was acting in a movie, and we were allowed to watch while they were taking a scene or something like that. I think it's with Louise Reiner. I always remember, I think it was with her and who was the other guy, the male actor. Anyway, the actor was, the scene was he's out on the fire escape trying to entice her out or something through the window, and he's enticing her by showing her an ice cream cone that he was just eating. He would like to share the ice cream cone with her. And so they had to have several different shoots. And so I got to have one of the used ice cream cones for the next shoot.
Oh.
It was Spencer Tracy, I think, was the actor.
Tracy.
Very funny.
Wow.
Yeah. 2019, and we're ending up a nice visit from Düsseldorf to Los Angeles, and so we're saying goodbye for this period. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dion.
You're
really.
welcome. You're welcome.
This was really.
You're welcome, and you take this home. Enjoy this book, which has many pictures, nice pictures of Fritz Rentz Jr.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're
really.
welcome. Yeah.
This is.
So fly safely, have a good trip, and we look forward to the next time.
Okay, yes, I will come back as soon as possible, and then we go on with the whole project, definitely.
Yeah,
there
that
are
would
so
be nice.
many things.
That's it. What a shame.